let's start with Raven and the franchise, which had their big, it wasn't quite the blow off because they're still feuding, but the culmination of their feud so far on the September 17th NWA-TNA pay-per-view number 62, in which they finally had, Liam, a hair versus hair match.
This was a pretty, okay, this match took a bit to get going, but by the end of it, I was like, yeah, this rocked.
So yeah, it's a very much a Raven and Shane Douglas match, where it's like two guys kind of doing plodding, brawling around ringside. Like, Shane Douglas is never going to blow your mind with a series of sequences you've never seen before, but what Shane Douglas can do is he can bring a crowd into a match and get them invested in it. So, like, even if he's still just doing basic plodding, brawling, at least the crowd are into it.
Yeah.
And obviously, I think Raven's having a tremendous run as a babyface. I think he's, like, maybe at the peak of his career as a worker at this stage.
Ever since he made that change, he's been killing.
He's just, like, legitimately good.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed that switch. And, like, I think even just before it, because I really enjoyed the Jarrett match as well, but he's been, like, firing on all cylinders.
We must mention, Liam.
Okay, before we mention the incident, I want to give Shane Douglas some credit here.
Okay.
Because my man, he rolled with the punches.
He really did.
And he honestly, post the incident, it might have been the best work of the match. So, fair play to the dude for keeping going and then, like, tearing it up another level.
So this match is like 15 minutes long. Like halfway through, Shane Douglas is leaning against the ropes and he throws up. He just a little bit of vomit leaves his mouth. And then he moves over to Raven and a little bit more vomit leaves his mouth. And then him and Raven do a little sequence that ends him with him being, like, kicked by Raven, and he turns around and a large amount of vomit leaves his mouth.
And, like, a dark viscous.
It's a weird, like, texture to it, isn't it?
Yeah, it's rough.
Because it's not like chunks or anything. It's literally straight liquid coming out of his mouth.
Yeah.
This gross yellow liquid just like... It's the fact that he throws up in 3 stages as well. Like, there's the little bit of vomit, the second little bit of vomit, and then the third lot of vomit. It's just like, there's an escalating series of vomit from Shane Douglas here.
Yeah. We should mention too that this was the show that we did the live reaction to. So if you want to see the live reaction to this,
and yeah, I set it up for Liam where it's like, I was like, this is a big Shane Douglas match, and Liam was like, why? And it's like, oh, you'll see.
And I was like, oh, maybe he delivers performance of a lifetime.
No, he just gawks in the middle of the ring.
Ugh.
I will say, credit to Mike Tenay, the proest of pros, who's like, that's how physical this match is. That's how, like, intense this rivalry is. They don't no sell it. They don't pretend the man didn't just vomit in the middle of the ring. They presented the vomit as, like, this is the true escalation of this rivalry. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I don't blame him. Like, shit's probably crazy at the moment. But, again, like, hey, he brought the match back after this, so I can't be too mad at the guy.
To be fair, we don't know that it wasn't worked vomit.
Yeah, it might have been worked vomit. It didn't look like real vomit. It might have been worked vomit.
Or it might have been real vomit, but he can just one of those people who can trigger himself to throw up at any time. So he's like, let's work it into the angle, baby.
He's got a puke.
We don't have worked vomit. We have, obviously, blood is the big thing in wrestling. But, like, someone throwing up is like, it is a visceral indication of how intense a match is.
Yeah. Someone should take that. Someone should... Okada, next Dome main event, 56 minutes in, should throw up.
Wrist control. He grabs the wrist, he turns the other direction. It's like, ugh!
He does the rainmaker, pulls him out. As he comes in, he just throws up on him.
Or, instead of doing, like, mist... Somebody should do vomit in the face.
Ugh, that's just disgusting. Remember when, like, they did the hour draw with Omega and Okada, and Omega dodged the Rainmaker by, like, just falling and collapsing due to exhaustion?
Yeah.
How much more impactful would that have been if Omega just threw up?
And threw up in 3 different stages like Franchise did.
Dodging every Rainmaker by throwing up.
You see, he throws up in front of Okada, and Okada slips in the vomit and then misses the Rainmaker.
No, he throws up in front of Okada, then Okada gets sick and throws up.
And it's just an escalating series of vomit.
Oh, what if Raven was a guy who throws up when he sees throw up? Alright, let's get off the throwing up.
Yeah. So, finish, they go up top, Raven hits a gnarly looking Raven effect off the top rope through a table.
Yeah.
Shane Douglas
what a finish, huh?
takes a nasty bump. Well, it's not the finish because Raven goes for the cover. 1, 2, technically Franchise kicks out, but lights go out. I did quite enjoy mentioning the watch. I like that franchise kicked out because, like, why didn't the referee just count 3 just that the lights are off? I guess he doesn't see the shoulders anymore. It's good refereeing, I suppose. But
Good refereeing either way.
yeah, so the franchise kicks out so that the referee doesn't lose some integrity, doesn't lose some credibility. The mystery man, who we've seen for weeks at this stage, maybe even months, I think he goes all the way back to July, who's been attacking Raven, is finally revealed to be Vampiro.
Yeah.
Vampiro hits Raven with the DDT, franchise pins him, and then Raven gets his head shaved.
He sure fucking does.
Yeah,
This is like genuinely uncomfortable.
it really is. So they sit Raven in the chair, and Mike Tenay and Don West go into overdrive, where like they are absolutely furious. They are absolutely outraged that this is how Raven's going to lose his hair. And Don's like, oh, I wouldn't even blame him if he doesn't go through with it. Then Mike Tenay is like, no, he's a man of honor. Even though he's been done wrong, he's still going to sit there and have his head shaved. So James Mitchell picks up the clippers, Liam. He picks them up upside down.
Ugh.
And shaves Raven's head and literally scalps the man. He like literally takes chunks out of his head as he's shaving Raven's head. You can see the blood trickling off his skull. It's even worse. They show a video package and a promo the next week where you can see the scars on his head from what like all the blood and all the cuts that like this head shave gave him. And like, to be fair, it made the head shave like 100 times more intense.
Oh, this angle was so much more impactful now.
It's such a better angle because he was legitimately scalped in the middle of the ring here live in an NWA-TNA pay-per-view. But God, it must have sucked. And you can see Raven's face.
Oh, he wanted to not take this so badly in the moment.
Like, you can see him wincing. You can see him being like, fuck, why does this hurt so much?
Yeah, there's a couple things about it, because it's like, first of all, obviously, sucks a Raven, but like fair play to him for just gritting his teeth and taking it.
And you can see him, he's literally gritting his teeth as well. He's like, "Argh."
And I'm not glad it happened, but fuck, like, it turns this angle like a whole up another level, doesn't it?
It turns it from like a regular hair angle to something like that feels legitimately different and special.
And it's already like the best feud in the company too. So like, it really just puts it to that next level. I really hope that the payoff matches are worth it.
Well, we do get a Raven Vampiro match, so you can look forward to that.
I hope it's worth it.
You can see the build. I think actually all the Vampiros matches take place in October. I think the whole thing happens in October, and then Vampiro's never seen again. So
That makes sense. It's the most spookiest month of the year.
it is. You have to do the spooky Raven Vampiro month all through the month of October.
Yeah. This match is crazy.
Yeah. You get the vomit, you get the top rope DDT, you get the actual legitimate scalping of Raven. You get Vampiro. Vampiro's there too, I guess.
Yeah, I haven't seen enough Vampiro to get super excited for this, but his Pentagon match was like almost legitimately like a perfect match, so.
Yeah, Vampiro is a good worker in his day. I liked Vampiro in WCW, even if a lot of what he did in WCW wasn't very good.
Yeah, I'm excited to give this a shot.
So we have a few backstage notes. Let's start with who the mystery reveal was originally meant to be, Liam. You suggested at one stage you'd like to see it be Ricky Banderas, better known as Judas Macias. That was in fact the original choice.
Ah!
From the Wrestling Observer, the original choice for the mystery guy was Ricky Banderas, but that was nixed a ways back because of the idea nobody would know him if he was unmasked, which is probably a good idea.
It's true.
Another point, CM Punk was considered, which I think would be a pretty good twist, a good turn, and that's the reason like he's a mystery man.
But the guy was like clearly a big dude.
CM Punk was just wearing some platform shoes.
Fair enough.
And then the other one was Terry Funk, but Funk turned him down.
Funk would have ruled. Funk would have ruled so hard.
So Vampiro was like the fourth choice.
Hey man, they're not four bad names.
And in terms of like who fits best with the new church, like Vampiro's probably the best option.
I don't know, I like Terry Funk with the new church.
Funk, demonic Funk.
He doesn't even need to be demonic. He's just a bad motherfucker. Like, imagine James Mitchell and Terry Funk promos on Raven.
So there was a backstage incident between Raven and Jim Mitchell after the September 17th show, based on how rough before James Mitchell got his hair.
Yeah.
Before the show, Jeff Jarrett gave Raven and Mitchell instructions in front of several wrestlers in the locker room. One wrestler overheard Mitchell ask Jarrett if there was a certain way he should hold the clippers when he cut Raven's hair. Jarrett told him to simply press down until the hair started coming off. However, Mitchell held the clippers the wrong way and left Raven's scalp a bloody mess. When Raven got backstage, Mitchell approached him to apologize. Raven took a swing at Mitchell, although observers say it looked as if Raven thought better of punching Mitchell and actually pulled the punch. Raven yelled at Mitchell, but they made up the next day.
I'm glad.
Probably because Raven's like, oh yeah, fuck yeah, it's actually a great angle, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, I wonder how far away from the incident happening was Raven and Mitchell like, okay, that ruled though, right?
Yeah. Because I get like the immediate visceral come backstage, your head is bleeding like shit, and you just have to sit there in a great deal of pain. You'd probably like emotionally charged, but if you like watched it back the next day, you're like, fuck, that was a great angle.
And Raven, like 3 days later, is for sure being like, yeah, that was the plan.
And like you can see them being sat down, and Raven sat down, and they show him in the mirror, and you can see like behind him with like Douglas and everybody like, cackling with glee at how they've shaved Raven's head, and Raven's looking at his changed visage, and God, it's good. That's pro wrestling, Liam. That's pro wrestling.
Like it's the perfect mix of like real emotion, real violence, and camp, which is like perfect pro wrestling. And also, like, shout out to Raven. My man looks handsome with a shaved head.
He does. He looks well.
So, he really won out in the long run with all this. He got the big payoff for shaving his head, too. So, yeah, my man did great.